We are back and better than ever. Today, I'm going to show you guys how to identify what a perfect trade is and how to spot it in the markets. We're going to break this down layer by layer, step by step, as clear as possible to show you guys exactly what a perfect trade looks like. So by the end of this video, you guys will be able to spot exactly how to find it, and when you're presented with a situation where you are seeing these things align, you know exactly what to do. We will start with clean, easy to understand diagrams, and then we will move into real world chart examples. So let's start with what makes a perfect trade and what it really means. The perfect trade, what is it? Who is she? Does she even go here? First of all, the perfect trade does not guarantee profits. So we have to understand that there is always a scenario where you get into a position and the trade doesn't work out. As traders, we got to be ready for that every single time here. So even if it's the perfect trade, it is the perfect setup, all the stars have aligned, it does not guarantee that this is going to be a winner. Even when a setup checks every single box, that could be, I don't know, something like a 3 touch point trendline break. It could be over a week's worth of data. It could be a low risk scenario. It could be double confirmation. All of these things could align and it could still be a loser. So finding the perfect setup. Am I dyslexic? I don't know. Finding a perfect setup does not mean that you should load your entire account in one trade. What we want to do is understand that every trade still carries risk. There are no guarantees here. We're trading probabilities. This is the market. So no matter how strong the setup looks, there is always risk involved. The goal isn't to find the perfect trade and to just go all in, bet it all. The goal is to understand what high probability setups look like so that you can identify the right opportunities and cut out the noise. Knowing what a perfect trade should look like helps you focus your attention on A+ setups. So another word for a perfect trade is an A+ setup. Now, before we get into the technicals of what the perfect trendline trade looks like, for the beginners, let's do a quick super duper crash course. What is a trend line? They help you see the bigger picture. They show you the overall momentum, structure, and trend of a market. They make messy price action here, which is what a lot of charts look like. And to be honest, they look even crazier than this. We should have thrown up like a book map, and we got all the bubbles and we got some craziness going on here. It makes messy price action. Now, it doesn't have to be messy. Some people there is a method to the madness and they can see through it all. And that's fine, that's fair. But I would say it makes complicated price action easy to read. This is what our charts can look like, and this is what mine look like. There are two types of trend lines. Upward trend lines, which connects higher lows and identifies that the movement of an instrument is overall going higher, pushing higher, moving up, trending up. And then we have downward trend lines that are connecting lower highs, trying to capture as many touch points as possible and identifying or signaling that the price is moving downward. It's moving lower and lower and lower. How do we use trend lines? Trend lines aren't just visuals, but they help us actually make trading decisions. So it's beautiful to look at. It's great to see, yep, price is trending down, price is trending up. But these lines can actually tell us when to place our trades, when to get in and when to get out. These actually help us with our decision making when entering the markets. When price reaches a trend line, it is the way that it reacts to it that gives us clues or indications to engage or disengage in the market, to enter or exit. So it is essentially allowing price to react to, either respect or break one of these trend lines to tell us what decision to make in the markets. So the coolest part about this strategy is we're not trying to predict or guess, we are reacting. So when price reaches one of these trend lines and reacts, it tells us what to do. This concept is the core of my strategy. This right here. I am a trendline trader and I use trend lines to help me enter and exit my trades. I build my setups and playbooks around this simple idea. Again, this is about spotting the right opportunities and cutting out the noise. We want to double down on what's working and slowly start to remove or cut out the noise or the setups that are not working. The 3 touch point trendline break setup. This right here is my bread and butter. This is my A+ setup here. The 3 touch point trendline break setup. This is one specific setup that I use repeatedly in my trading. Now this is one. I have many other setups. I've got, just to give you guys an example, I've got the break and retest. I've got the trendline bounce. I've got the 2 touch point trendline break. I've got the 3 touch point trendline break. I've got the 2 touch point trendline bounce, etc., etc., etc. But this one right here is my bread and butter. This is one specific setup that I use repeatedly in the markets that I would consider my A+ setup. This has a clean, rule-based approach that focuses purely on structure and price action. So my entry criteria, clear. My exit criteria, clear. This is purely based on price action and structure of the markets. And that's what we'll be highlighting today. Let's get into it. This right here is a quick setup entry checklist. So the first thing that has to happen is the trend line has to have 3 touch points. If this is called the 3 touch point trend line, break, the trend line needs to have 3 touch points. Next thing, the price needs to break the trend line. So this is very self-explanatory at first. I'll go over some more examples in a moment, but this perfect setup, the one called the 3 touch point trend line break playbook or 3 touch point trend line break setup, the perfect trade, it needs to have 3 touch points on the trend line and the price needs to break through the trend line. Next, you need to have a safety line drawn. I'll show you guys how to do that and what that means. So let's start with some average price action. This right here is some regular price action. You have probably seen the price move something similar to this many times before. How do we mark it up? Boom. Now you can see we have a clear upward trend line drawn on the chart. There is a touch point here, and another one, and another one. So we were able to identify that we have 1, 2, 3 touch points. We're getting closer. Here we go. But now what is an action line? In this strategy, an action line is the line that price breaks, and it signals you to take action and enter a position. So keep in mind, guys, a lot of these terms, these phrases that I use in my trading are very literal. They are self-explanatory. So things like my 3 touch point trend line break setup, very self-explanatory. Now my action line is when price breaks a trend line. So at first the trend line doesn't have a name yet. So right now this is just a trend line, and we can describe it by saying it's a green trend line or it's an upward trend line. But it doesn't get a name yet until price breaks the line. Once price breaks it, it is time to take action. That's why I call it my action line. But this is your time to take action and enter a position. Boom. Price breaks our trend line. This is our entry signal. This is time to get in, time to take action. Now, what we also need to do is make sure that we have our safety line drawn. What is a safety line? A safety line is the opposing trend line to our action line. And the safety line is very self-explanatory as well, very literal. This safety line keeps our capital safe. This is like, you could call it your exit line, your safety net, your safety line, whatever you want to call it. But this right here is what mitigates our risk, what manages our risk, and what is our deciding factor when to close a trade. It is always going to be the opposing trend line to the action line. When price breaks the safety line, we exit. Done. Finito. Entry completed. Exit completed. Done. Round trip transaction. Enter. Exit. Closed. Done. Solidified. Trade completed. Order filled, if you will. So in this example, price broke the upward trend line, now giving this line a name, action line, and we have an opposing trend line that is the safety line keeping us safe. So we know when to enter when price breaks the trend line, take action, action line, and as long as price can respect or stay underneath this safety line, we're going to continue to stay in our trade. Now, as soon as price breaks our safety line, it's time to exit. So in this scenario right here, you can see the price finally broke the safety line. It is time to close our position and exit our trade. So quick strategy checklist before we move on. 3 touch points on the trend line has to happen. Next, price needs to break the action line. Next, we need to have a safety line drawn to protect our capital, to manage our risk, to mitigate our risk. And then we need to enter the trade. We need to exit when price breaks the safety line. Now, before we get into some real world examples of actual price action, I want to show you guys just one more example on the charts here. So we've got price action, average price action. We've marked it up. We've got a downward trend line. It doesn't have a name yet. It's just simply a downward trend line. So we can see that the trend line has 3 touch points. That's part of our criteria here. And then boom, the price broke the downward trend line, signaling us to take action. Now this downward trend line has a name. It's called an action line. And this is our entry point. This is where we enter our position. We also need to make sure we have a safety line drawn so that we know when to exit this trade. So we are in our position, we're in our trade. Let's see how price action reacts to this safety line. Boom. Price is breaking through this upward trend line, which is called our safety line. This is our indication to exit. This is our exit point, time to close our trade and take our profits here. Now remember, these are perfect trades. These are textbook trades. These are perfect case scenarios, best case scenarios. There's going to be many times in the market where you get into your perfect trade and it doesn't work out. It goes against you. As long as you still follow this criteria and price breaks your safety line, your risk has been mitigated and you can still continue to trade another day. The only things that differ here is capital size and position size. Now let's look at the perfect trade with real world examples. Okay, so you can see a clear trend line with multiple touch points. And now we say multiple touch points, but how many? 1, 2, 3. All right, this is already starting to look like it could be a potential A+ setup, perfect trade. Now, price has broken through our downward trend line, so we've got an action line now. We also need a safety line, so the opposing trend line. We've got an upward trend line now. So price broke the downward trend line, now giving it a name. Now it has an action line. Now it's time for us to enter. But we need to make sure that we have a safety line as well, which is the opposing trend line, which is going to mitigate our risk, keep us safe, and tell us when to exit the trade. So this is our entry point. Let's get in. Price moved up, a little sideways, pulled back, but continued to push higher and continued to respect this upward trend line, which is our safety line. Once price breaks the safety line, that is our indication to exit our trade. So you're seeing the theme here. We're just waiting for price to react to our trend lines to tell us when to get in and when to get out. So price reacted to and broke this downward trend line, now giving it a name, action line. Price respected the upward trend line, allowing us to stay safe in our position and to capitalize on profits. But as soon as price broke the safety line, this is our indication to close our position and collect our profits. So this is what the entire trade looks like. This right here is a perfect trade. And to be even more specific, this is a perfect 3 touch point trend line break trade. Now, do these happen every single time? No, they don't. But the key here is to be able to identify them, put yourself in position to capitalize when price is setting up a perfect trade or when price is presenting a perfect potential setup for you. So this right here is a great start. I would consider this the most elementary A+ setup when it comes to trendline trading. Now I have multiple playbooks, multiple types of setups, and multiple A+ setups, even for different time frames. But as you progress in your trading and get more advanced, you'll start to build out these more advanced playbooks or these more advanced setups. But the key here is to just work on taking more A+ setups and less random, mediocre setups. I have a super in-depth video coming out. I'm talking everything A to Z very soon. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and have the notification bell turned on so that you know when it comes out. All right, guys, that is all I had for you today. This was another, I'd say, very educational, just webcam, low production video, high value, low production. These are my new favorite types of videos to make. If you enjoyed it, drop a comment. Let me know that you're still enjoying these, and I'll continue to keep rolling them out. This is the best way to do it. This is the most value I can give you guys that requires no production. We don't need the fancy lights, the fancy cameras, the fancy podcast mic. It's literally just a laptop, some slides, and my phone. The goal here of my channel is to just provide you guys as much value as I can, showcase the reality of trading, what it actually looks like, the ups, the downs. So continue to follow along if you're enjoying, and I'll see you guys in the next video.